Someone you love is going to die. You know this. And one day, if you are fortunate enough to live a long life, you will watch it happen, or you will be the one it happens to first. This is the one fact every human has had to face, with no exceptions, and for most of our history, no explanation. No religion to soften it, no funeral home, no grief counselor, no science to explain where a person goes when they stop breathing. Just a body in front of you, warm yesterday, now permanently, irreversibly still. How do you process that with absolutely nothing to help you make sense of it? The answer Stone Age humans arrived at is stranger, more elaborate, and more emotionally sophisticated than almost anyone assumes. And what they did with their dead reveals something about the human mind that predates everything we think of as civilization. Death rituals are far older than most people realize. At Shanidar Cave in Iraq, Neanderthal remains, dating back roughly 60,000 years, were found surrounded by pollen clusters from multiple species of flowers, leading the original excavators to propose something almost unbelievable at the time. That Neanderthals, a species we once dismissed as brutish and simple, buried their dead with flowers. The pollen interpretation has been debated for decades, but what is not debated is that Neanderthals deliberately buried their dead in dug graves, in fetal positions, sometimes with tools placed beside the body. This was not abandonment or indifference. This was a species making a decision, with intention, about how to treat a body that no longer held a living person inside it. That decision required the understanding that death is permanent, and the emotional need to do something about that permanence. Here is where it gets genuinely strange. At a site in Sungir, Russia, dating back 34,000 years, archaeologists uncovered the grave of two children, a boy around 12 and a girl around 9, buried head to head. Their bodies were covered with nearly 10,000 individually carved mammoth ivory beads, each estimated to have taken 30 to 60 minutes of hand carving. That means this single burial represented somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 hours of collective labor, performed by people who needed every daylight hour for hunting and survival. They chose, deliberately, to spend thousands of hours decorating two dead children instead of doing anything else. This was not practical. This was about something the people doing it considered more important than almost anything. Stop and sit with that number. 10,000 hours. In a world where every hour not spent hunting was an hour closer to starvation, an entire community redirected unimaginable labor toward two dead children who could never benefit from it. Which raises an uncomfortable question. Who was that effort actually for? It wasn't for the children. They were gone. The effort was for the living, for parents who needed to do something with grief that had nowhere else to go. The beads were a 10,000-hour scream into the void that said these children existed, and we will not let that be forgotten. But here is the detail that changes how we understand prehistoric grief. Researchers studying burial patterns across multiple Paleolithic sites noticed something revealing. Children's graves were frequently more elaborate and received more grave goods than adult graves at the same sites. This pattern appears repeatedly across different cultures and continents. Modern grief researchers have found nearly identical patterns. Parental grief over a lost child is consistently rated, across cultures and centuries, as the most devastating form of human loss. Stone Age parents with carved ivory beads were expressing something modern psychology would take tens of thousands of years to formally measure. But the strangest part isn't the elaborate burials, it's what some groups did instead. At several sites across Europe, archaeologists found defleshed human bones, deliberately cut and cleaned, sometimes polished into ornaments, found not in graves but kept among the living, passed between hands. For decades, this was interpreted as cannibalism. But more recent analysis suggests something far more emotionally complex. Some prehistoric groups appear to have kept parts of their dead with them, not out of disrespect, but out of an inability to let go entirely. A skull kept near the hearth, a bone carried during travel. The dead, quite literally, never fully leaving the group. It is uncomfortable to modern sensibilities, but it reveals a relationship with death that was about refusing to separate from the people they loved, even after the body was gone. Picture yourself in a small group, 30,000 years ago, gathered around a fire as the last light fades. Earlier that day, an elder who taught you to track animals, who held you as an infant, stopped breathing. There is no explanation for where they have gone, just the unbearable fact of their absence in the space where they used to sit. So the group begins, without anyone deciding to do something. Someone starts shaping a bead from bone, someone else begins digging into the earth, careful, deliberate. Children watch, absorbing without words the lesson that death deserves attention. You do not know why you feel compelled to mark this moment instead of simply walking away. You only know that walking away feels impossible. And so the work continues into the night, hour after hour, because some part of you understands, even without language, that what you do with the dead is also what you are doing for yourself. This is the truth about how Stone Age humans dealt with death. They had no explanations, no organized religion, no comforting doctrine. What they had instead was effort. Thousands of hours of carved ivory, carefully chosen burial positions, bones kept close instead of abandoned. Every choice was a refusal to let death be the end of the relationship. Modern humans, with all our religions and funeral industries, are still doing exactly what our Stone Age ancestors did 34,000 years ago. We cannot make death make sense. So instead, we spend our hands and our hours saying, as clearly as anything can, "You mattered." And somewhere in every flower-marked grave, the same ancient impulse is still running. The one that drove people 30,000 years ago to spend 10,000 hours on 2 children who would never know it happened.